National Youth Development Agency, raising concerns about unemployment among educated young people. The statistics showing that 58% of the 4.8 million unemployed youth have never had formal work experience. Let's talk now to the NYDA board member, Thulisa Ndlela, who joins us from Potchefstroom tonight. And as I say, that was the main event of Youth Day commemorations today. And Ms. Ndlela, good evening to you. Thank you very much for your time. Let's start off the conversation with what you as the NYDA think are the biggest challenges facing young people in South Africa today, and what has the NYDA done? What role have you played in addressing these challenges?
Well, good evening to you, Putoli, and to the rest of the viewers, and thank you for having us. We are of the opinion that the biggest issue that you can go anywhere in the country and you engage to young people, whether employed or unemployed, they are going to say to you is job opportunities. Because even for those who have employment, they are one way or the other linked to a sibling or a cousin or a family member who is still looking for employment. So the biggest issue is, how do we transition young people from learning into earning opportunities? And I think that's where the National Youth Service, as one of many interventions, but spearheaded in large part by the NYDA, together with other partners, has been able to bridge this gap, where we are saying young people who have left school, who have not yet gotten a job, must bridge this gap between learning and earning. And in doing so, they are part of a community-based program, and they are doing activities that are beneficial to the community, their surrounding community, whether in the creative arts, some in the sports, some in areas of governance, such as home affairs and all these other aspects. But what that all ends up to, they are gaining valuable experience, which will put them in good stead as and when they are in a position to look for a job opportunity much later. It is a 2-year program, and the success rate and the throughput rate is in the high 60s. That allows a young people who transition from this program in order for them to get into gainful employment. But we also, in this program, are encouraging young people to consider seriously enterprising. So meaning opening your own business and being able to become an employer rather than waiting for employment.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you touched on that, because that is what the country seems to be driving towards. Recently, we heard the Department of Basic Education. I think they are at the initial stages of wanting to introduce this as a subject, entrepreneurship, and introduce it at the foundation phase. And this is where you come in as the NYDA. The question is, what have you done concretely to say, these are the resources that we have poured to small businesses that are headed by young people? These are the names that we can put out to you as the media to say, these are people that were helped by us, whether it be funding them or through other means. What record can you put out to the public to say, this is who we are?
I'm smiling here, Corey, because for a moment I thought I was still in the portfolio committee being interviewed for the NYDA board, because that's one of the questions that seem to have gotten me into hot water when the members of parliament specifically asked for a name of a business. And I did explain back then that it was not in good governance for a person in my position to know of a company, because I don't get involved in that particular aspect. But what I will tell you is what the program does and what is available for us to do. Like, obviously, in many of our programs, just like the program we did today, we bring out actual warm bodies of success stories of young people who say, this is what I've been doing. There's a gentleman who was in the agricultural space today at the main program in Potchefstroom. There's also a gentleman who is in the art space, and there's a gentleman who's in the technology space. Now, I can speak about those stories because I know of them, but I won't be able to tell you their names because it's not part of the responsibilities that I have as a member of the board. But what the program does is the NYDA is really an organization that tries and gets as many young people into enterprise. And we're guided by research done by the World Bank, which indicated that when you compare the South African economy to our peers, like countries like your Brazil and the rest of the developing world, whilst we match them in formal employment, meaning people who are employed, whether in the public sector or in the private sector, who have an employer-employee relation, whilst we are able to match them in terms of the percentage of the working population who are in that, we seem to lag behind significantly to the extent that a country like Brazil, 30% of their working population is self-employed. A country like your first world countries, United States and many others, their percentage is up to 45% of the working population who are self-employed and or who work for small to medium enterprises. Now, when you come to the case of South Africa, we're only polling at 10%, and we are of the view that one of the, whilst it won't be a silver bullet, but one of the initiatives that we need to drive succinctly is to get as many young people into enterprising, because it addresses two things. One, you are able to create a job for yourself.
Yeah.
But you're also able to create a job for your peers. Now, how we intervene is that we conduct something called business management training, which is when a young person interacts for the first time with the NYDA, we make you go through that. Now, I always say to young people, to us, that is more valuable than any amount of money we can ever give you as a grant at the NYDA, because that amount of money will be spent in your business, which may or may not succeed.
Yeah.
But the skills you have learned on how to take care of a business, how to manage a business, how to market, how to identify market linkages, and how to administer funds in a business will last you longer than the money we give you can ever last you. So that's why we start there. And then we allow young people to do a pitch at the end of the training, in which you are expected to apply the principles we've taught you into a specific business idea that you have. And then we're able to allocate where this business idea can get maximum assistance.
All right. I understand your limitations as a board member, that perhaps you don't want to poke your nose into operational matters. So let me ask you the question differently. How does the NYDA measure the effectiveness of its youth empowerment initiatives?
There is an aftercare program once as particular insofar as getting young people into enterprises. There is an aftercare program that we at our level as the board also monitor. We go to the businesses that we have assisted to see whether they still succeed, and if they have any other challenges, how can we ensure that the investments that we've already made is secured? For instance, a few years ago, we went to the province of Mpumalanga and we met a young person who was dealing with having a warehouse where they are able to fix cars, a panel beating warehouse where they are able to fix cars. And one of the challenges that this young person was having was that his workshop was not accredited in order for him to be able to attract customers who have insurance. So you needed to unlock that registration and accreditation. But it's only something that he would have found out by trying. So in a year of working, he realized that whilst I'm able to take cash customers, but I'm not necessarily able to take people who have insurances to come and work here because I'm not accredited. So we worked with him and we're able, in partnership with NYDA, to assist him get that accreditation. And on our end, we would have not been able to see that as a stumbling block because it wasn't something identified at the time. But now if a young person comes with a similar concept, we now know. So there's quite a lot of work that gets done post-granting of the grant, and we get involved at that level from a point of making sure that that which is claimed on paper is actually done, which is what we do insofar as the oversight responsibility that we have as a board of directors.
Final question, and very briefly, if you can, do you think that the NYDA will ever get over this label that you are merely a vehicle used by the ANC to reward loyalty?
Yeah, I think we've gone past that, Tolly. If you look at the composition of our board, this current board, which was appointed three and a half years ago, you would see that it draws on young people with different political affiliations. And we encourage young people to have political affiliations. But we also accept that in youth development, not only ANC-aligned young people have the solutions. Some young people are aligned to the DA. Some young people are aligned to other political parties. So you are not going to say you are only going to bring ANC aligned. It may have been that at a time, many years ago, maybe I must have been in preschool. You had something similar. But right now, in this board, we can say we've got a diverse group of young people whose political allegiances are different, but we are all brought together by the kind of difficulties and the passion we hold for young people.
How many DA or EFF members are there on the board right now?
Well, I don't think it's necessary for me to go that far. But what I can tell you is the board is not made up of only ANC-aligned people. And it's important for me not to then go as further and say this one is DA, because maybe yesterday he was DA, maybe tomorrow is PA. How do you know? These things happen. We live in South Africa. People wake up and they're PA, and they're IFP and many other things. So, but it's important to note that it's not necessarily only ANC-aligned young people. And we've long past that era. We are now looking at young people with a passion and with skills, because the skill set in this current board is well diverse in as far as the Act demands.
Okay. All right. Thulisa Ndlela, thank you very much for affording us your time, NYDA board member.